How It Falls Apart. It's dystopian, it's an audio experience, it's a book. Les Mis, a youth production, a school's production, but not a school production. And folk and film, and a new folk album with Offaly connections. You're listening to Encore on Midlands 103. It's Claire O'Brien here with the best of what's happening in the arts in Laois, Offaly and Westmeath. And you can contact me this evening, whenever is good for you, on 083 30 10 103, the Lamb Brothers Midlands 103 text line. And you can email me at any stage to encore@midlands103.com. Tonight I will be chatting to Mark Linden, and he is an Offaly folk singer. He's a songwriter and he is soon about to release a debut album, and he will be previewing some of it in Birr very soon. Colin Hughes is at it again, thank God, and he has a 40-strong cast of students from a variety of different schools across the Midlands who will be bringing the school's version of Les Mis to the stage next week, and it will be stunning. And it is World Book Day, and we have to chat to an author, of course we do, and Gary Colton has released a book that is more than a book. How It Falls Apart is a dystopian thriller and an immersive audio experience. We'll find out more when we chat to Gary a little bit later on the programme. But before we do that, we will, of course, as we always do at the start of the show, bring you some brand new Irish music. Tonight it is coming from two bands that you'll be really familiar with. One is Soda Blonde, who we play regularly on the programme. This is their new song, which is called Suit and Tie. And we'll follow that with some Kingfisher. It was just one of those wonderful moments recently at Portlaoise Panto's show when that famous Kingfisher song of the summer was performed on stage, and every child in the audience, the 4-year-olds, the 5-year-olds and the 6-year-olds and upwards, they were all singing along to it. It was a very special moment. They have a new song, it's called The Blade, and that will be coming to you in moments here on Encore on Midlands 103. The unmistakable sound of Kingfisher, and before that you heard the equally unmistakable sound of Faye O'Rourke and Soda Blonde and the band there. We're going to take a break, and when we come back it'll be to chat to Gary Colton about his new audio thriller, and that'll be right after this break. Midlands 103. Still to come on Encore this evening, I will be chatting to the inimitable Colin Hughes about his school's production of Les Mis, which is going to be just fantastic because everything that Colin Hughes turns his hand to is fantastic. We're going to stay in County Laois to mark World Book Day today, because you couldn't have World Book Day without speaking to an author. And I am joined on the line by somebody who has written a novel, and who has written a novel that is a bit more than a novel. It is an audio experience, and that man is Gary Colton. Gary, you're welcome back to Encore. How are you doing?
All good, Claire. Thanks a million for having me back.
Oh, it's lovely to talk to you. Tell me, how do you mark World Book Day, or what's on your bedside table? What are you reading at the moment?
I'm reading a book. It's called The Sleeping Doll. It's real. I think it was wrote back in 2007, but it's a really good. It's a thriller.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very, very good now. I'd highly recommend it. It starts off really good. You're kind of hooked on straight away. So that's on the bedside at the minute.
And are you one of those people who has a stack of things there to read, or are you disciplined and read one thing at a time and not buying stacks of books and watching them pile up unread beside you?
Yeah, and sometimes I'll shift between 2 or 3 kind of at a time. You know, kind of way. Sometimes it's like you'll have a holiday read, or sometimes you want something a bit more literary, and you'll kind of delve into it. So yeah, I'm one of those that have kind of multiple on the go sometimes.
Well, this is a good thing, isn't it? It's nice to be able to move between different things depending on your different moods. You're going to chat to us tonight about your latest release, and I'm going to call it a release because it is more than a book. You've published 1,000 physical copies of this, and most of those, or a lot of those, have been sold. But there's a whole completely different way for people to access this. Will you tell us about How It Falls Apart?
Yeah, so I'll give maybe a quick premise of the story.
For sure, yeah.
It's set in a totalitarian society, and that's really kind of ruled by propaganda and fear. And like the baddie, I suppose, in the story is this government that throws the power called the Authority, and they will really stop at nothing to maintain their grip on power. So it kind of almost feels like a lot of the comments under stuff that I post is like, it feels like this is already happening, or we're on the way to this. Because it's very much like a surveillance state. Your identity is being ripped out. Like if when you're listening to the audiobook or even reading it, there's no mention of the word like tall, or there's no he, her. There's no identifying language. So you kind of never know if the character's male or female. You kind of really build that in your head, if you know what I mean. All identity has been stripped out of the society. And like when I was writing this, I was going to write another thriller, Claire, like another kind of serial killer one. And I was like, what is I think a totalitarian state getting into power is probably more frightening than any serial killer, because the scale of harm is so much more. Like, with a typical thriller, like a serial killer will, they'll have their victims, but like a bad government is just, it's exponential, the harm they can do.
Of course. So you sat down with this idea. It must have been really difficult, when your job as a writer is creating characters and then you're stripping away all identity.
Yeah, and it's told from, it's a first person narrated. So you kind of have to rely on what they're seeing. But it is, like, I think, a lot of the characters' names are, like, it'll be the partner, the passenger. It's non-gendered. It gives nothing away kind of into who they are. You're basing everything of who they are by their actions and their behaviours. And it kind of, like, I think a lot of people that have read it, any of the feedback I've got, they kind of get an idea of who this person is, but it's more from their behaviours than actually saying this is a man, this is a woman, this is a bad person, a good person. It's all down to their kind of behavioural traits.
And did you find that difficult to write?
Yes. Yeah, my dad was my editor for it, and or just gave me so much kind of feedback. I was like, does this sound right? Stuff like that, because it's really difficult to actually kind of get without using him and her or she or they. It's difficult, but you kind of get into the rhythm of, okay, this is how I can explain it without having to bring in identifying features.
So tell us about Liberty and Liberty's background.
Yeah, so, and this is where the book kicks off. So she, they maybe, the protagonist, they get a message on their phone and they click through, and this kind of sends them into just like, they get kind of drawn into this rebellion. And the whole thing is like, you have a very naive, very gullible character, and they get swept along into this like extremism and this fanaticism. And even when they try to get out of it, or they know what they're doing, maybe their actions are immoral or wrong, they're just like torn in by this movement, and they're like caught in a riptide that they can't get out of. And you kind of get to see a moral collapse within the character without giving too much away or anything like that. But you kind of get to see they're pressured into action constantly.
And the Liberty's desire is to get away to a place where there is none of this unpleasantness, there's none of this oppression. Yes,
so there's like a utopian that everyone strives to get to, and no one knows, like within this society people are very discouraged from talking to each other. They're encouraged to talk through the app, so no one really knows like the ins and outs. They see on the app, on this like social feed, the idea of this place, and it is this utopia that they all dream of, escaping the kind of dystopian hellscape that they're in. And their goal is very much to get there. It's to get out of this District 23, where the novel is mainly set.
So, I suppose, when we think about the dystopia, the nature of dystopian fiction, and you mentioned it yourself, how there are so many elements of the world today that we might consider to be kind of dystopian, but one of the big elements is, of course, the increasing role of AI. How big an element is that in your novel?
Very, and I mightn't elaborate too much on it. Definitely, it's very pervasive throughout. Because the AI, it's like this algorithm that is able to predict your thought based on all your behavior. Like a lot of it is digitized. People have a very much online presence in it, and there's a lot of surveillance. So this AI algorithm is able to predict, who's going to maybe do good behavior, who's going to be soak up the propaganda, and who's going to go against it.
Yeah.
So that's a big team in it. there is another part of that, which I won't elaborate too much on.
No, don't. That's fine.
It'll become very apparent as you get towards them closer end chapters.
So that's really difficult for Liberty, because I get the impression then that these elements of oppression, it's almost virtually inescapable for her in her daily life, which is not what a shop worker expects to experience on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and it's very like, how do I put it? It's like, it's almost so oppressive that people don't know, like they can't remember. They weren't alive before, like when there was democracy. So they have this like worldview of like solitude is sacred, the smog is fresher than sea air, all these kind of empty platitudes, all these kind of slogans and phrases that they constantly utter without being able to think beyond or questioning, having a critical thinking to question, wait, is the smog fresher than sea air? Or is solitude really sacred? Or is kindness strength?
Okay.
So, it's kind of, they're very indoctrinated, and it's just like fed. If you're on like a steady drip of propaganda, it's very hard to break out and see a different side of a society, or kind of parallels within the society. And
you've, as I said, that there are around about 1,000 hard copies of the book, which are mostly been sold. But the main iteration of the story is in a live not in a live performance, but in a performance that's narrated by Maya Tuttle, and there's a cinematic score and there's sound design which you've created. Why did you decide that this was the way that you wanted people to experience Liberty's story?
Yeah. I thought, because it's so much more visceral. So I know you mentioned the sound design. Like, you can hear like of a bullet, you can hear the footsteps, you can hear the breathing. Like, there's the guards, the kind of people that maintain order are called watchers, and you can hear their footsteps coming. It's very visceral, and I wanted to really suck the listener into the story. So that was the sound design part. I kind of took a bold move with going, like, me. I think a lot of people listen to content more so than they have time to read. Like, if they're in a car, they can throw on a podcast, or they can, throw on the radio, listen to music. People are far more inclined to listen currently, because it just saves time. You can do it when you're out walking, in the gym. So I wanted to kind of meet the audience where they are. So the decision then was made. I'll release 3 chapters a week for 12 weeks, almost in like a serialized podcast. So, you'll have 3 episodes this week, 3 next week, unlike Spotify. It is on Apple also, but mainly through and promoting through Spotify.
Yeah.
And the whole intention there is, you'll have to, it's free, which is brilliant for everyone.
For sure.
You'll have to listen to an ad up front, like a pre-roll ad, and you can essentially nearly make more money. I suppose you can monetize better that way than selling books, because there's no barrier to entry. They don't have to go spend, consumers don't have to go spend maybe 15, take a chance on a book they might or might not like. You can give it a sample, and it's essentially exponential, the reach on it. Because it's going out to it's up to 15,000 listeners now globally, and it really is globally.
Because you can get the stats, can't you?
Yeah, you have all of it coming in in real time. You can see where they're listening and see how they're moving beyond the chapters. But it was kind of a bold way. Like, Claire, to be honest, what I was trying to do really was just build that bigger audience for the next book as well. Like, there's 15,000 people, that maybe potentially buy my next book.
Yes.
So you kind of really it's a long-term strategy, I suppose, just to really build a very big audience. That's, maybe it would have sold 1,000 copies, it might have sold 2,000 copies. But I don't think traditionally selling the book, I would have been able to achieve 15,000 listeners. And, it'll probably keep going up until it's over anyway.
Yeah, as time goes by. And have you enjoyed a very different activity in creating that cinematic score and the sound design and putting in the footsteps and all of that? Was that a creatively positive experience for you?
Yeah, it was kind of fascinating to see, cause you were kind of world building as well. It was really like writing it again, but through sound. It was incredibly powerful. Because normally when you're writing, I'm imagining it in my head, like the visual element.
Yeah.
But this was to really compose a book through sound. So it was a brilliant experience. It was very time consuming. It took me around 6 months, but it was really enjoyable. It's just a slow process to get, like, to find the assets, then to kind of build them in a way that it all aligns with what's actually going on in the narration.
Yeah. Well, listen, the very best of luck with it. May it bring you many thousands more listeners and book buyers for this book and for the next one. The book, it's the experience, the audio thriller experience, is called How It Falls Apart. It's by Gary Colton. Gary, happy World Book Day, and thank you so much for taking the call this evening.
Thanks so much for having me on again, Claire. I really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. How It Falls Apart is available on Spotify and on Apple. We'll take a break, and when we come back, it will be to chat to Colin Hughes. Can't wait to hear about how he's been getting on with some fabulously talented young people bringing Les Mis to the stage in Tullamore.
Midlands 103.
And you are indeed listening to Midlands 103. It's Claire O'Brien with the Encore Arts Show, here with you every Thursday night with the best of what's happening in the arts in Laois, Offaly and Westmeath. And since it is World Book Day, if you would like to send us a message to 083 30 10 103, the Lamb Brothers Midlands 103 text line. We'd love to hear about your own particular book favourites, anything that you're enjoying, anything that stands out to you as a reading experience in your lifetime, or indeed at this particular time of the year. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be chatting a little bit later on the programme to Mark Linden about his upcoming album. But before we do that, we're going to stay in County Offaly in Tullamore, because coming to the stage in the Esker Arts Centre next week, starting on Monday night and running all the way to Saturday, just getting in nicely set up for the St. Patrick's weekend, Colin Hughes Productions are bringing one of the greatest musicals ever made, it has to be said, and that is Les Mis. And it is going to be phenomenal, Colin Hughes, is it not?
It absolutely is, Claire. If I do say so myself, and to be honest with you, it's very little to do with me at this stage. We've had an unbelievable rehearsal period with over 60 kids in the cast, and to be honest with you, for all the rehearsals, we're just sitting there going, oh my God, these kids are absolutely incredible. It's just been phenomenal. It is going to be phenomenal, and it will be remembered in town for a long time.
Wow. This is the time of the year where, you know, school musicals are happening all over the place. My own school, which is CBS Carlow, were involved in that. I was watching their musical, which was the school's version of Grease, which they're doing at the Gael Colosh de Carlow. I saw that this morning with our first and second years. And there's something about that experience for young people when they get on stage, and they may never really have been involved in musical before, for example, but they get on, they do it in TY, and they get completely bitten by the bug. And then TY is over and they've nowhere to go. But you have 60 young people who are from all over the Midlands who have had, I suppose, have been bitten by the musical theatre bug and are just thrilled to be on stage.
Absolutely. And I had seen that as well. Obviously, I would direct a few school musicals throughout the year as well. And I had seen that kids fell in love with it so much. And then, as you said, it's just gone, and that's their experience, and they might have gotten that bug and have nowhere else to kind of maybe show it or to use it. So I did think of that when we were starting to set up, like for Les Mis. I've always wanted to do it anyway, but I am hoping to do more into the future than to aim it towards teens. Do you know what I mean? That we can just kind of keep that buzz going and keep people interested in musicals, and it will help kind of future generations of musical societies and, in fact, maybe careers going forward as well.
Yeah. And every time we go to a school's musical performance, you see those one or two students who are just who are mind-blowingly good. And it was funny, even the conversation in the staff room this morning about the guys who were really terrific and who stood out. And
of course.
But when you take those one or two students from lots of different schools and lots of different performances, you must have an extraordinary cast.
I really, really do, and there's no two ways about it. And if anyone's listening to this, and when they go and see it, they'll say, "Oh God, Colin was right." I really do. They're absolutely phenomenal. Like from 1 to 70, they're just incredible. And yeah, I have been lucky that I suppose I can pull it outside into like a mixture of schools.
Yeah.
But like every time, so it's myself and Enda O'Connor is my musical director, and Chris Caroon is our choreographer. And like we just spend rehearsals looking at each other going, this is ridiculous. Like, that's what we keep saying to each other during rehearsals. Like, it's hard. Like, you won't believe you're watching kids. You really, really won't.
And when did you start to audition for this and to start rehearsing it?
I think we auditioned like in the autumn, in the late autumn. I think maybe around September, October, and then like it was obviously, you know, you wanted to get it right, and there's such specific characters and such well-known characters, so it did take a while for the audition process, because we wanted to make sure that we get it right. And even though like the talent supply was huge for the auditions, you know, it did take a little bit of a process to sort out some of the parts. But it's been totally like we've just rehearsing weekends, and then obviously we're in this whole weekend before we open on Monday.
You're only rehearsing weekends?
It's just been thoroughly enjoyable. Only rehearsing Saturdays. We were only rehearsing Saturdays for a couple of months, and then after Christmas we started on Sundays. So we were doing 2 days a week, and then literally we had a rehearsal I think midweek this week, and then we're in tomorrow for the weekend, and we open on Monday.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just, it's incredible. It's been the most wonderful, easy going experience, because everyone is just loving what they're doing, and it's so much fun. And when you see the end product, it just makes it all the worthwhile, you know.
And big casts are not easy. When you talk about having 70 young people involved, it is not easy. You know, when you go into Tullamore Musical Society, or Corey Culduff is there with that Lone Musical Society or whatever, you know what you're dealing with, because you're working with people. You might have 1 or 2 new people every year, and they've come through an audition process, and they kind of fit in with the vibe that you already have. But in the situation that you're in, you are starting from scratch with young people and an enormous cast.
Yeah. And I like it's hard to believe that you're saying it, but like it's been nothing but a pleasure, nothing but a joy. Like there's been nothing, like it's just been so easy. They're loving it, as you said, that bug is there. Like I think I keep saying to them at rehearsals, you know, do you realise this, like what you're about to do here? I keep saying this is just going to be, and I, to be honest with you, I think they do, Claire. I think they realise that this is something very, very special, and that they're very, very lucky to be a part of it, and they're really, really relishing in the fact that this is a huge chance for them, and you know, I think they're taking that on board and going with it.
And what's happening here, the sense that I'm getting from this is that, you know, there is that talent pool of young people, but this is not a school's performance. This is a Colin News Productions performance with yourself and Chris and Enda, and it is it's going to have a different vibe. It's not, you know, all the mammies and daddies coming along and cheering on the young people. This is a musical theatre group in its own way. It is.
And it's funny because people, like, it's obviously we have to advertise it as Les Mis Schools Edition, okay? And because I say this to everyone, someone will go, oh yeah, but it's a Schools Edition, and then they'd say, well, what's the difference? And my genuine answer is, these guys are better. Yeah, and like that's fair. Like it is a full scale production. There's absolutely, like, there's the differences in the let's say the school edition and the ordinary version. I would challenge anyone, even the biggest Les Mis fan out there, to find them. Yeah. You won't find them. It has absolutely everything that the West End and the Broadway musical has.
And how do you find with young people? I know you've been so articulate about how wonderful they are. Do they have that depth of emotion that a character of Jean Valjean needs? That, you know, that they can bring to the sorrow of Cosette, the aggression, the drive of Valjean, like of Javert. Like how do they have that in them? Yeah,
they do. They really, really do. And it's just that passion, and they've just gone for it. They've just gone for it from the start. And like people would come to me that I'm quite a hands-off director. Let's say I kind of let things happen in front of me, and some of the kids are going, "Am I doing that all right?" And I'm kind of saying, "Look, if you're not doing it all right, you'll hear from me. Yeah. If you don't hear from me, you're grand." And they're giving it absolutely from day one. Day one rehearsals. They're like the buzz in the room from people, everyone watching everyone else's performance, and the effort that they're putting in from day one. No, I know I keep answering this, but like honestly, they're just phenomenal. They blow you away, and they really will. Everyone's in for such a treat next week.
Why young people? You know, why decide to take this on? You know, when there
Like
are some... Sorry, go on.
Yeah, just like you said there, like it's just there's a pool of talent, and I've watched it grow. Let's say I've obviously my own stage school and my senior class, and then I've been to, like, let's say the Sacred Heart School musical, and I know I work in Moat a lot and things like that, and I just kind of I said there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of talent around. And I just said, you know what? I knew Les Mis School Edition was available, and it's something I've always wanted to do. And I just felt, you know what? Now is the right time to do this. There's talent. There's a huge amount of talent there. So that was it. I said, let's go for it. I can only do it with teenagers or people in secondary school. So I said, why not now? That the talent is there.
And do we have the same kind of investment in costumes and setting that we would have in a typical musical society performance?
Guaranteed 100%. 100%. I think I had 300 costumes delivered last Friday from Nomax down in Waterford. And they're all like Les Mis costumes. No, it's like, it's not, as you said earlier, don't think of a school musical. This is Les Mis.
This is not Mammy find a white T-shirt, Mammy find a pair of white socks, Mammy get the gingham skirt.
Yeah. I promise you. This is Les Mis as good as you'll see it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It's just fantastic to have that kind of a creative outlet for people, for young people, because there's so little really that's there for young people, and for to have the opportunity to have every Saturday singing and dancing and hanging out with people who have get the same thrill as you do from the same kinds of things. They must completely feel like they're with their tribe.
100%, and you're right. There is very little out there, and sometimes when I'm working in schools, like, you know, you see obviously sport is huge, and look, I'm a big sports fan myself. I'm never knocking sport. Obviously, you know, there's huge avenues there, but I always think how many kids are in a secondary school that just go, oh, I don't know what my thing is, and they'll never maybe get a chance to sample that, or kind of go, oh Jesus, that's what I love. I love doing that. You know, and it is that it's to open that up and to do that. This is obviously, you know, not going to be the last one I'm going to do. So, you know, it's to open that up, to have that avenue there, whether it's only as a pastime for the rest of their lives, or it's something that they go, Jesus, this is something I'd really like to get into, whether it's backstage or costume design or on stage, whatever. It's opening up them avenues for them.
Is it too soon at this point to ask you about any standout performances or ones to watch, or is that an unfair question when you have 60 plus young people on the stage? Unless
your program goes on for another 3 hours, Claire, absolutely not.
Well,
because I'll start listing and we'll be here for a week.
Okay, well, we won't ask you to do that. So thanks a million for talking to us about it. It starts on Monday night, runs all the way to Saturday, so it's the full week and into the weekend as well.
There are a few tickets left. There's a few tickets left, and honestly, I can't, and I know it's mine, it's obviously my production, but I just can't stress how you need to see this. Everyone needs to see this.
Well, there's no need for me to ask you to plug it, because you have just done it. Colin, thanks a million for chatting to us. The tickets are available.
Thanks for your support as always. Thanks so much.
No problem.
All right.
Thank you, Colin. And tickets for that are available on the Esker Arts Centre website. A phenomenal opportunity for those young people as well to be on that great stage, and it is a fabulous stage. We'll take a very quick break, and when we come back, it will be to chat to Mark Linden about what's going to be a lovely event in Bar next weekend, Friday the 13th. Stay with us. You're listening to Encore on Midlands 103.
Midlands 103.
You're listening to Encore on Midlands 103. Encore at midlands103.com is the email address, and you can contact me on any stage at that email address. I'd always be delighted to hear from you. There's a really nice event happening next Friday night, the 13th, in Bird Theatre, and it involves two Offaly performers, creatives who are doing wonderful things in their own particular areas. Nicky Larkin is bringing screenings of two of his films. One is Sumoland and the other one is Punt, which was IFTA nominated. But after that, there will be a pre-release performance by Mark Linden of his debut album Silhouettes, which is original folk music based on stories that he has collected in the Blackwater Valley. Now, Mark joins me on the line. He has stepped out of rehearsals. Thank you very much for taking the call, Mark, this evening.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Claire. Thanks.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Tell us about so you're an Offaly man, but you're based in Cork now. How is folk music different? Or what are the stories different in the Blackwater Valley to the way they are in Offaly?
I'll tell you what's different is that, well, first of all, it's for this album, I have kind of viewed the Blackwater Valley and the area as what would have been an ancient travel route. So the Blackwater was tidal up as far as Cappoquin. So you must remember back in ancient times in Ireland, we didn't have a road network. Rivers were their valley. So there are ancient stories. And what kind of happened here was some of these stories were starting to become lost. And I had gathered them by word of mouth, by meeting with various people in the area. The difference in terms of stories that you'd hear down here and stories that you'd hear in Offaly are many and few at the same time. We're a garrison town, and Fermoy is a garrison town as well on the Blackwater, near where I live, near Ballyhooly. But what you have a lot of down here are old IRA stories from the War of Independence, and a few of the songs skirt around that. So I have a nice bit of stuff like that on the album, and that, I suppose, that is particular to the area.
And where does a song start for you as a songwriter, as a gatherer of stories and an interpreter of stories in music?
Well, in the case of this album, this is, I suppose, what you would refer to as a concept album, Silhouettes. And in this instance, we moved to Ballyhooly in 2017. And I was struck when we got a dog and I had to walk the dog twice a day in the woods and the forests at old, we'd say, ancient monuments, ring forts, etc. And I started to realise, a lot of this is covered up. And that then inspired me into writing, I suppose, the lyrics for the songs. In terms of the music for the songs in this instance, it's a pretty straightforward and unique one. I bought a really nice guitar and started operating. I started operating in different tuning systems, and without getting too technical, that opened up a whole different palette of colours to me, and I started to, I suppose, paint with those. And if I want to be kind of up myself and how I speak, that's where the influence for the sound for this came from, and then the stories come from, I suppose, walking the dog and being interested in the topography in a new area that I had moved to.
And which comes first for you then?
Came.
Sorry, does the tune come first or the story?
Always the tune.
Always the tune.
It's always the tune, and then I'll match the story. So like we say, I will write as often as I can, and like with Mickey, who's performing on Friday night, I score films for him as well. So I'm always involved in composition. But when I'm writing, if I'm writing a song, I will have the structure, I will have the guitar part ready, I'll have the chord progressions ready. I'll have that done first, and then I'll match the story. And in the case of these songs, the way it kind of worked for me was, I was ruminating over the stories I had collected. I had visited people and interviewed them, and often the person you speak to influences the story and how you portray it. Uh-huh. And then in the case of most of these songs, I'd ruminated for a couple of weeks. Then I'd sit down, and in one go or maybe two sessions, I would have the lyrics complete. And furthermore, I'm happy with them. Often I go back over, but they came out because I had thought about it, and because I suppose some of the pressure was off me because it was other people's stories. I felt it was kind of easier to write it. Now, some of my more recent stuff is more, I suppose, my own thoughts and my own reflections on myself as I hit a certain age in life and things like that. But for this album, I felt it was easier because it wasn't my story every time,
Yeah. And as a folk writer, as a folk performer, do you feel that there's a kind of a way to there's a need to have a respect for what's old and what's traditional, but also for what's modern and what speaks to the world that we're in today? How do you balance that?
Well, actually, it's not. That's one thing that I'm finding not that easy, is to balance more modern stories with the older style. Like, in a way, again, this was an easier process because I was using open tunings and referring to stories that were old, which suited maybe, I'm not saying all folk music is old, folk music is the music of the folk and it's current, but some of the tunings I was using, like Dadgad, etc., they're relevant to traditional Irish music. So it felt like it had more of a place. And I do find it more difficult to write about contemporary issues in an old folk style. Yeah, I will say that I find that more difficult, I do.
Yeah. in the performing of these songs, because you have, of course, been performing them. The album will come out later on in the
May,
spring.
I expect, yeah.
In May, yeah.
There'll be a few copies for sale in the theatre now on Friday. I have hard copy CDs, so I'll sell them in the theatre. It's a sneak peek for my home crew, like, you know what I mean?
But as you've been performing these, have you performed it as that full concept album?
I have, yeah.
You have, and how has that engagement been like for you with an audience?
It has been great because people who attend folk settings, and again, it's been kind of a relief for me because, again, I'm relaying back someone else's information, gathered stories. So, you know, like, I feel like I have a duty to do them justice, and it's easy for me. Like, there's nearly, I'm not going to say there's as much talking as music in the concert, but for every song, before I perform the song, I'll tell the story. But what I tend to do to keep people listening is I give them just enough of the story that the lyrics of the song will fill in the rest of the gaps. And it kind of goes hand in glove like that. And for me as well, as someone who's releasing their debut album, it's a way to draw people in because, you know, there's a hook there. It's about folk stories. It's not about just me at this stage. Hopefully for my second album, which I'm already writing, people will be interested in my music and I could push it forward that way. But yeah, for me, the telling of the stories really helps, you know, it really helps to engage people, I suppose.
Well, here's your moment now. We're going to play First Light. Do you want to introduce us to this particular song before we play it for us? And thank you for chatting to us this evening.
And thanks for having me, and I really appreciate it. And anyone who wants to come and hear it, 13th of March, Friday week in Bird Theatre. First Light was one that, so this is not the first song, but the fourth song on the album. But this song was the second single I released. And this was based around the impact of the increase in light on my own mental health as I walked through the Blackwater Valley. And you hear references to various areas in the valley. So this is the only song on the album that doesn't refer to a particular folk story, but refers to the overarching theme, which is the area and the activity of getting out into the area, into nature. So this is, First Light is about the impact of the mild increase on light on our own mental health. Even though it's not easy to judge, it's still pre-6 o'clock, but those days in January and February, there certainly is an increase. And interesting, I had just gotten hens at the time, and they started to lay their first eggs. So I had actually gone down a bit of a rabbit hole about the hen's pineal gland, but I didn't think that would be too interesting as a title for a song, you know. So I said I'd call it First Light.
Well, here we are. Mark, thanks so much for chatting to us. Soon it will be June. That is just gorgeous, isn't it? That is First Light by Mark Linden, and that is just about it for me for this evening. John Cusack is in. He's smiling in front of me here. He's going to be Joe Cooney for you this evening with the best of Irish and American country music. I'll be back next week. Can't wait to chat to Tig Devery, whose brand new show is launching this weekend in Tullamore. It's going to be fantastic. But he'll be with me on the programme next week. Until then, take care of yourself. Good night.